Emboldened by the unlimited support it receives from the US, the Israeli regime is pressing ahead with its efforts to promote its settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. This Israel is doing through using tourism with the aim of legalizing the townships which are all illegal under international law.
Israel is violating international law. Israel is the aggressor, and Israel must be sanctioned.
The European Union has condemned Israel's use of tourism to promote the settlements, saying Tel Aviv is bent on erasing the Palestinian culture. The EU has opposed Israel's expansionist policies, though it's alone in trying to pressure the regime which enjoys Washington's support in every aspect. The question is if the bloc can exert meaningful pressure on Israel, which would force it into stopping its aggression.
The first thing the EU has to do is it has to withdraw all its funding to Israel. I mean, you cannot make statements like this and think it's going to change anything when Israel is being paid to uphold its occupation of the West Bank. It's a cost-free occupation of the West Bank and a cost-free siege, which is why it engages in occupying the territories. It wouldn't do so without the financial backing. Therefore, if you want to see any real change, you have to withdraw funding. You have to sanction Israel for its wrongdoings. This is the only way it will learn. This is the only way it is going to change. This is what happened with apartheid South Africa, and this is what has to happen with Israel too.
The gap between the EU and the US over the Palestinian issue has gone deeper since US President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem al-Quds as Israel's capital on December 6th. The bloc says the US cannot resolve the issue alone. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica MOgherini says, quote, "If I can put it in the headline, nothing without the United States, nothing with the United States alone. Any framework for negotiations must be multilateral and must involve all players. A process without one or the other would simply not work, would simply not be realistic," unquote.
Well, the EU becoming a party for mediation, replacing the United States, first of all, it would have to withdraw its funding. This is the only thing that's going to make any sort of difference. It has to stop taking the side of Israel in the conflict. It has to start abiding by international law. It has to start upholding international law, and it has to force Israel to uphold international law. It's very basic. It doesn't matter which party is the one doing the so-called mediating in the so-called peace process. There's one key principle, and it's upholding international law. If they were to do this, then yes, they could be a peace broker.
The EU has also held talks with both the Palestinian Authority and Israel as part of its bid to revive the so-called peace process, which has been dormant for a long time now. This has been blamed on Israeli violations, including its land grabs and settlement expansions in Palestinian territories. No matter how determined the EU is, the Union faces an uphill task to bring back the Palestinian Authority to the negotiating table. This stems from Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's lack of trust in Israel and Tel Aviv's own unwillingness to engage in meaningful talks. Not all Palestinians agree with the peace talks. Actually, Hamas, with which at least half of the Palestinian people side, opposes negotiations and believes resistance is the only way forward in dealing with Israel.